Okay, I know I'm a few days late to this one, but it's really egregious, and I couldn't not talk about it, even if I'm a little bit late. So, a few days ago, it was announced by Wired Production that Martha is Dead, a psychological horror game, was being forced to censor itself by Sony in order for release on PlayStation 4 and 5. And the scene that everyone is pointing at that made this happen was the scene where you have to skin your sister's face and like make a mask out of a face, Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. Funny how nobody complains about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but now we're going too far, doing the exact same thing as Chainsaw Massacre, which came out in like 1976 or something. But anyways, point is, an M-rated psychological horror game is being forcibly censored by Sony in order for release on the PS4 and 5. And this is just the latest in a kind of lengthy string of Sony censorship, which is really disheartening. And of course, as you can see by the title of this video, a bunch of Sony fanboys are now defending this. Because of course they are. Because you cannot think for yourself, you cannot look away at things you don't want to see, you cannot let other people have fun. If Sony doesn't like it, you're not allowed to like it either. Killing kids has always been a big no-no in gaming. It's why they're invincible in Skyrim and Fallout. They should have done research before putting it in the game. It's only been a no-no in gaming because of arbitrary unwritten rules that devs shouldn't follow. If a game is meant to be disturbing, unsettling, and plain horrifying, then they should be able to put any content in their game, and yes, that includes killing virtual children. No, it's literally a written rule. What? First of all, there are no written rules as to what can and cannot be in a video game. Second of all, have you heard of a game called BioShock? In before the little sisters aren't actually human children. That's not the point, and you know it. So many people in the comment section crying because the developers want to be responsible, implying that it's irresponsible to not censor this game? Keep in mind that the PC and Xbox versions are not being censored, it's just the PlayStation version. Some people really just see Sony as the moral arbiter of gaming for some reason. Also, never mind the fact that there's nothing in this game that I've seen, at least, there's nothing in Martha is Dead that's worse than what's in The Last of Us 2. Which is why a lot of people are saying this is so hypocritical and this is so fucking stupid. Sony is going out of their way to be the moral arbiter of third-party material on their platform. Meanwhile, their own exclusives are worse. Last of Us 2 is more graphic than this game. God of War 3, back in the day, is more graphic than what is in this game. The deaths in Until Dawn are more graphic than what's in this game. You may get the heebie-jeebies from Martha is Dead because it's done in a more up-close and personal way in order to get under your skin because it's a horror game and that's the fucking point. But going back to this comment, the devs want to be responsible by censoring their own game made for adult audiences? What? Realistic scenes of children being mutilated or dismembered have no place in a video game if that's indeed what is being censored. The game should get an AO rating if that's the case. Again, with just trying to dictate what can and cannot be in fiction. It is fiction. It's not a real child. It is a psychological horror game. You are not supposed to be comfortable. If you can't handle it, that's fine. Just don't play it or look away during the scene. It's not hard. Not to sound like an edgelord, but dead kids have been in fiction forever. Like, literally forever. As long as there has been fiction, there have been dead kids in fiction. Get over it. No one is advocating that you actually kill children by playing this game. Pretty sure this scene adds nothing to the game. Doesn't matter. Devs put it there. It's their vision. And also, you don't know that. The scene where you skin your sister's face means nothing to the story or the overall game. Like, just on the surface, you sound stupid here. But this is okay, and then and then Joel death scene from Last of Us 2, which, again, in my opinion, at least, is more graphic and gratuitous than what's in this game. Side note, that right there is the problem. In my opinion. Sony's opinion is different than my opinion, but Sony's opinion is what's censoring this game. Why is a game being censored based off someone's opinion? But then someone responds, people die in games all the time. People don't use a razor to cut off someone's face and put it on theirs. Two very different things. Friendly reminder of when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. The movie's like 50 years old and we're still complaining about stuff like this. If you can't deal with gore, that's fine. If you can't deal with like gross close-ups of violent images, that's fine. Play other games. Other people aren't bothered by them and can look past the gross imagery for the story, for the experience, or the gross imagery is part of the overall message of the story or part of the overall feeling of the story. Again, it's a psychological horror game. You're not supposed to like this. This is not entertaining for a healthy mind. God of War profile picture, which is extra ironic. which Dawn points out with the killing Helios scene from God of War 3. I just find that extra ironic. This is not entertaining for a healthy mind. With a God of War profile picture. Have you played any God of War game other than 2018? Black Ops 2 had the same blood and gore and intense violence. This isn't the same. This is just disgusting. Gore porn. The phrase gore porn and torture porn, they get, like, those phrases get thrown around way too easily. It's like anytime there's a somewhat slow death scene in a game, or there's like an above average amount of blood, people are always so quick to call it like, oh, this is gore porn, this is torture porn, this is excessive. Like, fuck, shut up. For the millionth time, is it gross? Yes. Is it unnerving? Yes. That is the point. If you don't like it, don't play it. And that's the best part too. How many of the people advocating for the censorship and defending the censorship, how many of these people even knew what this game was 5 minutes before they tweeted? You know? How many people were actually going to play this? How many people were actually affected by this? And how many of these people have played games with worse content? Spoiler, most of them probably have. If you've played Last of Us 2, if you've played God of War, if you've played Until Dawn, and the more observant people in the audience may realize that everything I just listed is exclusive to a Sony platform, or at least it was at one point. And that's the biggest problem here, is the giant fucking double standard. I think this isn't so much a case of censorship as it's Sony making sure they don't get into legal trouble and any of their customers are severely traumatized, especially if they ignore the warnings beforehand. If you're a $1 billion share-held platform, what would you do? You just ignore, oh my god. First of all, let's get something clear here. If you get severely traumatized by a video game, you're a pussy. Grow up. And second of all, Sony's trying to avoid legal trouble because they might traumatize customers who ignore the warnings. Meaning there are warnings telling you not to do this thing, but if someone does the thing anyways, you're still blaming Sony. Is all of your brain still in your skull? If I run a red light and am hit by oncoming traffic, that is my fault, not the oncoming traffic's. If a waiter tells you that the plate is hot, don't touch it, and you touch it anyways, that's not the waiter's fault, that's your fault.
Careful, this plate is extremely hot. Thank you. Ow!
I just told you it was hot. Why'd you touch it?
I just wanted to know what your idea of hot is.
If there is a warning on the game, and there is in the form of the M rating, and you choose to ignore it, that's your own prerogative. But you cannot then whine about the things that you were warned about. The real world is not going to hold your hand like that, and it's really unhealthy that you expect it to. Yeah, Sony has every right to not allow this on their console. I'm not for censorship, but I can understand why they would censor this. So, you are for censorship. Thanks for clearing that up. That should be rated as adult. I have seen many horror scenes like this before, but it has context and it was subtle. This one is extreme. Really? They could use a cutscene instead of minigame. This is shock value. Few things wrong here. You just said you've seen other horror scenes like this. So, like most people, you can recognize that this isn't even that extreme compared to other things that are out there. But also, you say this doesn't have context? I'm quite certain there is context to this. And then you say they should have used a cutscene instead of a minigame? The sequence where you slice the face off is a quick time event. It may as well be a cutscene. 2 button prompts is not a minigame, and a cutscene instead of a minigame, why would that make it better? Fucking Christ, people look for any justification they can to be in the right about stuff like this. Just move on. If you didn't want to play this, just move on. I can name a million games off the top of my head that I don't want to play. I don't demand that they get censored to fit my likings because I wasn't going to play them anyways. And that, again, that's the biggest problem. People here advocating for censorship of a game that they probably weren't going to play regardless. Yeah, I understand why Sony don't want little 10-year-old Timmy watching this scene while his mother is right there and she makes a complaint, goes into Karen mode and try to sue Sony for traumatizing her child. Why the fuck would a 10-year-old child be playing this game or be in the room while this game was being played? That's not Sony's fault. That's bad parenting. Again, it's really unhealthy to be an adult and want this level of hand-holding. Who needs to play this shit? Being gruesome for the sake of it or just to shock your audience is not mature. It's for kids that think being extreme is edgy and cool. Okay, so like 30% of M-rated games then. Why stop at just one game? Censor them all. Last of Us 2 had pregnant woman and dogs shot. Sony, silence. Martha is dead. Sister's face getting skinned. Sony, this is not allowed. And I have been kind of repeating myself in this video because it really is just it's just a frustrating topic to talk about. It really annoys me when people are so dense to the things that are coming out of their own mouth. Oh, I don't advocate for censorship. I just think this is extreme and shouldn't be here. The gore in this game is extreme, but other Sony games, no, those are fine. This scene has no context or plot relevance, even though it's literally happening to your sister. And then, of course, the biggest problem I have is just the amount of people who you know were never going to play this game, and probably only learned about it 5 minutes before they tweeted about it. Censorship of all kinds is evil. Not to get grandstanding myself, but I truly believe that. Censorship of all kinds is evil. If you don't want to play a game, don't play it. If a certain game hurts your feelings or makes you feel gross, don't play it. And if you truly think something is just completely reprehensible, has no value, just ignore it. Let it fail. Let the devs lose money on the project. Let the game fade into obscurity. And then stuff like that won't exist anymore. It's that easy. You don't need censorship. And you don't want to hear it, but the kind of people advocating this game be censored have the same energy as the people who want GTA censored every single fucking month. Stop trying to prevent other people from having fun with things you don't like. Because believe it or not, people can make their own decisions, and they're allowed to like things you don't. Toodles.